Alright, so welcome to the second video of the channel, and in this video we'll be learning how to order and compare integers. So, yep, and the three words you probably need to know in this video, don't worry, we'll get to them soon, are absolute values, the zero principle, and opposite integers. Those are pretty much the only math kind of terms you'd need to know in this video, and that I'll be using in the video. So yeah, I guess we'll just hop right in. Okay, so first we will start off with ordering integers. To order an integer, it's quite simple. But first you need a set of integers. So we can take the set -6 and 4, 1, 0, -7, and 5. So this is a set of integers. Now, let's say you want to order them. Well, a thing you use to order them is called a number line. Alright, so this is an example of a number line. It's not the best number line because I had to draw it with a mouse and it was really hard to. As you can see, like the lines are a bit squiggly, but it still works as a number line. And now we're going to start ordering these numbers. So to order them, you'd probably go from left to right or right to left, but it doesn't really matter. But we'll start off with left to right. So we have -6, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the negative side. Oh, and by the way, before we start, this is the negative side, which is on the left. That's what the number line is, and positive sides on the right. So now these don't show the signs, but they still are positives. Even though the negatives have their own signs, the positives don't really need them. I mean, you can add them in if you want, but you don't really need them. So I guess we can continue. So this would be -6. Now we go to 4. So I guess I can just show you guys where them. I don't really need to count. So 4 would be right here, just so you get the concept. So it's 6 spaces down to the left. Now we got 1, so 1's right here. 0, we already have 0 because in every number line you start off with 0. -7's the one right after it. And 5 is right here. Alright. Now, ordering these integers, we need a question, first of all. So, let's take the question least to greatest. Okay, so someone were to ask you if they're least to greatest, you'd say, so you'd go from left to right because this is the more, like, doesn't have as much value as these because these are negatives and these are positives. So the answer would be -7, -6. Then 0, then 1, then 4, then 5. So that's what it would be if you wanted to order them from least to greatest. So -7 would be the leastest, and 5 would be the greatest. So now let's say someone asks you greatest to least. You'd go 5. It would just be the opposite pretty much. So 5, 4, 1, 0, -6, and -7. Alright, so now you know pretty much the basics of ordering. Now we can move on to comparing. So comparing is pretty much the same thing, except in two numbers. So we could say -2 and 2. So those are two complete different integers. I mean, they have the same absolute value, and we'll get to that soon, but they're not the same number. They're -2 and 2. They may look like the same because they're both 2's, but they're not. Okay, but to compare them is you can compare them by using the three terms. So the absolute values of these two numbers are 2 because to look at the absolute value. So let's say -2, for example. -2 would fall on the number line right here. The absolute value is how far away it is from 0. So in this case, it would be 2 because it's only 2 spaces away from 0. Now 2 would be the same thing because again, it's only 2 spaces away from 0. So their absolute values are the same. Now, also, these two numbers are opposite integers because on the number line, they're both the same number except this one's negative, which means they're complete opposite, right? As I explained before. So those also are opposite integers. So now the third one we wouldn't use right now because that is for using a whole new idea. It's just how to calculate them pretty much. Okay, so that's how you pretty much compare it. Also, you can compare it if it's greater or lesser. So 2 is obviously greater than -2 because, again, 2 is the positive side and the negative side. And as I explained before, the positive side has more value than the negative side. Alright, so that's pretty much the basics of it. I guess we can do another set. So now we can take 3 and let's do -2. Now we can check which ones. We'll start off with greater and least. Which one's greater? 3, obviously, because 3 is on the positive side and -2 is on the negative side, which means 3 is greater. Now you can compare their absolute values. So 3 would be on the positive side. Goes 1, 2, 3. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. And then again, like we did last time, 2 is the absolute value is 2, but that's where -2 is. So the absolute value is 2. So again, the 3 has a bigger absolute value of -2, or anything you want to answer the question, like which one's more closer to 0, or anything like that, which absolute value is closer to 0. But that's what I'm just going to say. So 3 has a greater absolute value, and these are not opposite integers because they aren't the same number. Alright, so now you know pretty much the basics of ordering and comparing integers. And I guess we can do another example just to show how to do it, just to give you a refresher. And if you still have like no clue what's going on right now, you can just replay the video back to the start and watch through again. So we'll take the numbers -2, let's do +7, 1, 3, and -3. So as you can see, also you can just pull out 2 numbers to compare them. So let's pull out, well, let's first order them, and then we'll pull out 2 numbers from there. So we start off with -2, so 1, 2, -2, 7, we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Whoops, I went too much there. Alright, anyway, so that's 7. That was so bad. Now 1 is right here. 3 right there, and then -3 is pretty much on this side, so -3 would be there. It's kind of messy. Alright, so now to order these again, so you can take the question like it's least to greatest. Okay, so we'd have -3 first, then -2, and then by the way, we didn't put 0 in this one, so we don't put it in. It was just because I had 0 in the question last time. So then we have 1, then 3, and then 7. Alright, so those are your numbers in order. Also, you can have them in the other order, so from greatest to least, so 7, 3, 1, -2, and -3. So now, as I said before, we can pull out 2 numbers and order them. So I guess we can take out 3 and 7. So these are both positives. It's not going to change anything. It's just they're both going to be positive, and yeah, pretty much it. Alright, so now we have 7 and 3. Alright, so again, we can put these on the number line. We already had it on before, but we'll just start it over again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 3 is just right here. It's still on the positive side. So now the absolute value, so since they're both on the same side, 7 would be 7 and 3 would be 3. So 7 would have a greater absolute value and 3 would be less. Now we can put opposite integers. These aren't opposite because they're not on the negative side. There's none on the negative side, which means that you can't really do anything about that. So that's pretty much how to compare them and order them again. And yeah, so I guess now we can move on to the next thing. Alright, so the big question is, why would you use this in a real life why would you use this in real life? Well, let's just say you're a scorekeeper for golf, and you want to figure out who won the whole tournament. is you pretty much have to know what everyone got and who was the best, who was the worst at the game. So you'd have to know that. You'd have to know how to order to pretty much if you want to become a scorekeeper. Or also another example is you're just an average person in the stock market and you want to figure out if you want to figure out how your stocks are doing and which ones are doing better and which ones are doing not so great. So it's also really helpful to know that, to order integers, so then it's a lot easier to do your job. But also, it's because of those situations you have to know that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. And now you're pretty much an expert at ordering and comparing integers. And if you didn't quite understand anything, or you're struggling with a bit of some parts, you can just replay this video, and hopefully you can learn something from this video. Alright, so anyway, thank you guys for watching, or whoever's watching right now, and I'll see you in the next video.